Hello folks, Will Buxton and Lawrence Barretto coming to you from Budapest, where we have been at the circuit today and have returned to our hotel where we have to stay until returning to the track tomorrow. But big news, is it breaking, Lawrence? Has it broken, or is it rumbling under the surface?
I think it's rumbling under the surface, Will. It's one of these driver market stories that we can really sink our teeth into. Sebastian Vettel, could he be going to Racing Point? I think that if you'd asked me that 2 months ago, I'd say not a chance. Asking me now, I think it's a very good chance. I think the reports in Germany, which obviously broke the story that Sebastian was leaving Ferrari, saying that there's a contract on the table from Lawrence Stroll to join the team. So I think the next few days and weeks could be really interesting.
It's fascinating because, of course, the doors were starting to close for Sebastian after he found out he wouldn't be with Ferrari next season. McLaren, quickly that door closed. Renault, the door closed with Fernando Alonso. And actually, this is where the story really started to get its legs, because Fernando admitted that he had been offered a seat at Racing Point, and this is a seat that we all assumed didn't exist because Checo's until 2022, Lance is the son of the boss. We just assumed that Racing Point would be a no-go.
Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, it is. Checo's got a long-term deal, like you said, and as you said, Lance is the son of the boss, so why would you want to change that up? But you'd want to change it up if there's a world champion.
Precisely. If you've got a Fernando or a Sebastian in the mix, and now you do have a Sebastian in the mix. It's not quite that simple though, because if they have put a contract on the table for Sebastian, it means one of their drivers is going to have to go. But which one?
Ordinarily, you would say if you look on pure performance, they would keep Checo. He's driven brilliantly in these opening two races. He's driven brilliantly, frankly, for that team since he's joined.
Absolutely.
And it's not that Lance Stroll can't maybe get to a very good level, but at the moment, he's not anywhere near that level. So if you want the best lineup, you want Checo and you want Sebastian in the team. Unfortunately for Checo, Lance is in that seat because his dad wants to help him in his racing career. And why would he want to stop that right now when he's been building up to this point? He's invested in his son all the way up until this point. It's a difficult decision for Lawrence because Aston Martin are going to become the title, or the name of the team next year.
They'll become Aston Martin.
And they want to make a big statement of intent, and by doing that, bringing Sebastian Vettel on board is exactly that kind of move.
There are, of course, other political permutations in play. Of course, Checo was the one who helped to take that team from the disastrous area that it was as Force India towards Racing Point, which led to the Aston Martin deal. Of course, he was the one that brought those proceedings against the team. There's a lot of love for Checo within the team because he essentially saved the team from itself. He also brings a lot of sponsorship with him. That's not an easy thing to let go, even if you're Aston Martin, that big name. Also, he's got a contract till 2022. It's difficult to break unless there is a break clause. You'd imagine by sort of 31st of July or something like that, if they want to get it in pretty soon. The other part of it, of course, and we talk about Lawrence and Lance Stroll, is that Lawrence has always funded his son's career. But it's now not as simple as Lawrence being the sole owner of the team. It's a group of investors. Lawrence is the figurehead of that, obviously, and the big boss at Racing Point. But it's not as simple as Lawrence being the only one. He has other investors, friends, colleagues who have invested not in Lance, but in the team. And so he's going to have a very difficult decision to make over whether it is advancing his son's career or advancing that investment of his colleagues for the Aston Martin brand.
At his core, Lawrence Stroll is a businessman, and throughout his career he's made investments to make money. And so he's leading this consortium and he's bought this team because he wants to make good on his investment. And to do that, it might not necessarily mean Lance is in the car. Now that doesn't mean that Lance is out of Formula One. It could be that if they want to bring Sebastian in his place, they find Lance another seat on the grid. Maybe he takes a year in a test or reserve role and learns from Sebastian. There's plenty of options where Lawrence won't just drop his son. But I think that's got to be in his mindset at the moment is, what do I need to do to make this team successful? Otmar's talked about wanting to be in the top 3 and winning races within 3 years. Now, if you bring a Sebastian Vettel in, you're going to be having an asset there that can help you achieve that goal. Do you do that with Checo in the other seat? You probably do, because they offer you the best chance.
It'd be a hell of a lineup, wouldn't it? It would be a hell of a lineup. You look at how consistent, dependable and fast someone like Perez is. Having a world champion alongside him, it would be an incredibly strong lineup. I want to pull back one point. You mentioned Otmar Szafnauer. Otmar, of course, was in the headlines over the last weekend of the Styrian Grand Prix. A lot of headlines saying he'd completely ruled out a move for Sebastian Vettel. When I spoke to him in the pen on that Friday afternoon, I asked him about Seb going to the team, and his answer was I'm going to say it's a sidestep, because he said we're happy with our drivers for 2020, and then sort of walked on to speak to Ted at Sky. He hasn't categorically denied this at any point. He's been very, very clever with the words he's used. He's always referred to our drivers have long-term contracts. Therefore, it's logical to suggest there's no space. And I think that no space thing was used as the headline. He's always referred to 2020, not 21. He's been really careful not to talk about 21. And I think, Otmar knows this business inside out.
Oh, yeah.
And he knows how to use his words to leave that door ajar. And whereas I spoke to Toto, do you see the ultimate lineup, Seb and Lewis, happening at your team? He said, the fans are going to be unhappy because it's not going to happen. Okay, that's out. Ferrari's out. Helmut and Christian, Red Bull's out. McLaren's out. They are solid. Doors are closed. But the door is open at Racing Point.
And I think that Otmar knows that if he wants to take this team forward, he needs a big name in the car. No one was expecting Sebastian to be available at this point in time. So they would have planned for the best available lineup they could get. I think, as you said, Otmar's been very careful with his words. He's used words like, it's only logical, and he said it's flattering to be linked with Sebastian. And I think he's dealing with it very well. I think he's making this story very exciting for all of us. But as you said, he's not ruled Sebastian out. And I think the very fact that he hasn't almost gives proof that there are discussions going on behind the scenes. I think that in terms of who has to make this final decision, I think it's going to lean with Sebastian. I think he's got to decide whether this is a project that he wants to get involved with, and it's a project. It's not a 1 year thing.
Yeah.
Sebastian's only 33. If he races to the length that Kimi's done, he could race for another 7 years.
Yeah.
So I think that if he believes that Racing Point and the car that they've got, which looks good,
looks great.
You could argue second, third best car on the grid at the moment.
Absolutely. Let's not get into the controversies around
that. Of course,
that's for another time.
That's a whole other video, I think.
Exactly.
If they can give him a car that can win races and prove to people who think that he's a
has-been, and
exactly,
and
he's gone, why not take that opportunity? Yeah. And he's got a team, and he's got a brand, Aston Martin, behind him. Can you imagine Sebastian Vettel winning for Aston Martin?
And this is a team who, for decades, have done so much with so little. They are the giant killers of Formula One. Imagine a Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez, for the sake of argument, line up at that team as Aston Martin. It's tantalising. But as you say, I don't think we're going to have anything concrete for a while. If Sebastian has a contract in front of him, he's not going to decide within the next few days. This is going to rumble along for a little while. We'll be talking to the drivers over the weekend. We'll talk to Otmar. He's in the press conference on Friday. I'm sure he's got a lot to answer, not just about this year's Racing Point, but also about next year's lineup. Thank you for your insight as always, Lawrence. Thank you guys for watching. Can't wait for this weekend to start.